We interviewed someone just last week, and she said, why should youth get all the press? I am not youthful. I'm ageful.
Welcome to Sage Pathways. I'm so glad you are here. We live in a world overflowing with information about how to age well. And yet, so many people still feel unprepared. Unprepared for the transitions, the decisions, the conversations that matter most. That's exactly why the show exists. Sage Pathways is your compass for intentional longevity. Each episode, we sit down with leading experts in health, wealth, legacy, and life design to move beyond and what of aging and into how. The how of building a life that feels vibrant, purposeful, and secure at every stage of the journey. Whether you are designing your own future or lovingly supporting someone you care for, this show is for you. You deserve clarity, you deserve strategy, and you deserve to feel confident in the path ahead. I'm your host, Sun-Hee Yoon, and this is Sage Pathways, a roadmap for every journey. Let's walk the path together. March is a Women's History Month, and on this show, we don't just observe it. We celebrate it with the voices that deserve to be heard most. The voices of women who have lived fully, loved deeply, and absolutely refused to become invisible. This month on Sage Pathways, our theme is women's legacy. Not legacy as something you leave behind, but legacy as something you are actively building right now at every stage, every age, through every story you tell and in every life you touch. And I cannot think better guys to walk us into this conversation than today's guests. These are women who didn't wait for permission to reimagine what aging looks like. They built the movement themselves. And Catherine Marienau are innovators, mentors, and longtime champions of women's empowerment. Together, Gail at 84 and Catherine at 76, they co-founded Women Over 70, Aging Reimagined, a movement that has featured the stories of over 370 women, ages 70 to 100 and beyond. Their award-winning podcast has given voice to women who the world too often overlooks. And in doing so, they have proven week after week that the most compelling chapters of a woman's life are often still being written. Today, we're going to explore what it truly means to age with courage, creativity, and contribution. We will unpack the myth that holds women back and the qualities that set the most vibrant women free. This is a conversation about legacy, not as a final chapter, but as a way of living. Gail, Catherine, welcome to Sage Pathways.
Thank you, Sun-Hee.
We're so honored.
Happy to be here. Yes, we are.
I've been a huge fan of you both.
Thank you.
Please share how and why did Women Over 70 started?
Well,
Go ahead, Gail.
Thank you, Catherine. Actually, Women Over 70 began with a question and a conviction. I met Catherine when I was going to the DePaul University School for New Learning to earn my master's degree in creativity and innovation for small businesses. And after graduation, we would occasionally meet for dinner. And I thought I was feeling so proud because I thought I was the only one she ever did this with. But no, I found out she does it with everybody. And so I had just returned from my son's 4th New Media Summit conference. And I had been to all 4, and they were all about podcasting and wannabe podcasters who were pitching veteran podcasters to see if they could get on their show. And so after the 4th time, the bug hit me. And I was telling Catherine when we had dinner that I would very much like to interview 70 women over 70. And so we talked about it a little bit. I believe there was a far richer story to tell about women aging than what the current culture was. She agreed with me. She seemed very interested, and suddenly she said,
Well, I'm in if you'll have me.
and that began a wonderful partnership. We saw the same truth, that older women were being treated as invisible. We didn't like that. We realized that interviewing 70 women wouldn't be enough, and so we made the title Women Over 70, Aging Reimagined. And we saw it as a place for women to be heard, where they could tell their stories fully on their own terms. And that's what we've done. As you mentioned, 370 episodes later, we are really changing the truth about what it means to be an older woman and what life is about.
So, what are the prevailing myth and counter-truth about older women?
So we have a forthcoming book. And we thought after 370 some episodes, it was time to write the stories. And the book is called Reimagining, Women Over 70, Reimagining Aging, Place, and Possibilities. And in that, we do identify 5 myths that just persist in our culture. Margaret Cruikshank is a feminist historian, and she challenged feminists. She said, you need to turn your attention toward aging with the same urgency that we gave to reproduction, racism, to violence against women. And she said ageism is another form of injustice. And we need to see women over 70 not as a single category, but as unique individuals, a richly varied group of individuals. So we believe that very strongly. And we know that Western cultures told a very different story about women in later life, and the assumptions are narrow, they're damaging. Right. And we felt it was important to identify some of the myths and expose them, and then counter those with what we know to be the truths. So we'll tell you a bit about those myths. So our first one that we lead with is that older women become invisible and irrelevant once they no longer meet youth-centered ideals. You mentioned that in your introduction.
Yes.
Well, the truth is that every single woman we've interviewed is thriving. She's thriving in social, intellectual, creative spaces. They're expanding what's possible. They're challenging the restrictions of the youth-centered ideal. And they help us understand that relevance is not tied to age. It's really tied to depth and breadth of lived experience. We interviewed someone just last week, and she said, why should youth get all the press? I am not youthful. I'm ageful.
Ageful. This is really phenomenal that you're leading this journey with a group of women and then changing the narrative. So, having interviewed over 370 interviewees, what characteristic do your 370 plus featured women have in common?
Before we get into that, I'd like to tell you about another myth. And myth number 2 in our book is that women's stories, older women's stories, are self-indulgent and irrelevant to others. And we know that's not true. We know that absolutely is not true. The truth is that older women share their gifts by telling us their stories. They share their wisdom, their connection, and their legacy, as you spoke about. And so people like Judy Collins, a lot of you out there will know who Judy Collins is. She's the legendary folk singer. And she talks about love, loss, and relationships and redemption through her poetry and songs. And in fact, we're going to see her in October again. She was at our symposium in October last year, and she's coming to do a show here this October. And through her book, Sometimes It's Heaven, she reveals so much of what her life has been like. Older women cannot be dismissed. They have important stories to tell. Another one that you may know is Karen Grassley, who's 79. She's our episode 143 if you want to listen. And she chronicles her path from Little House on the Prairie. She was Ma on Little House on the Prairie.
Wow.
Yes.
My heroine.
Yes. And she tells us through her personal stories, really, of the social turbulence and advocacy against domestic violence that she thinks is so important. So we have to listen to these women.
Absolutely.
There's another myth we love to talk about because it's so much in the news. And it is that the myth is that older women are dried up sexually. Okay. The truth is that older women claim their sexuality. They are seeking and affirming their right to intimacy, to pleasure, and even sex. And we have an advocate for women aging, such Jane Trace is an expert, a researcher, and she has uncovered the untold stories of older lesbian women and how they talk about their sexuality. Jane Fleischman is a sex educator, and she says, "Can grandma have sex?" And she trains staff who are in senior resident communities about how to respect sexual intimacy among older adults. We have a lot of advocates in our book who are sex educators and have ways of talking about intimacy, pleasure, sex among older adults, especially women. It's a taboo topic in many places, not in our book.
I am intrigued. And another myth, yes?
Yes. And so there's a myth that says women over 70, age 70 and older, experience aging much the same way. This is not true. We are all unique. That's the beauty of us. We're all individuals. And the truth that is that each woman ages on her own terms. And she's shaped by the places she inhabits and the traditions that sustain her and how she makes choices every day because she's who she is. And so just two quick people. Frances Fuller, who was 89, she was recently widowed, and she wrote a book that is helping herself see what it's going to be like to turn 90 and into her 90s and above, and all the things that she has learned from the time she was younger. And so her book is Helping Myself Grow Old, if anybody wants to read it, Frances Fuller. And then there's the advocate Sky Bergman. Sky Bergman created a documentary film, Lives Well Lived. And it was about adults aged 75 to 100 whose diverse life stories offered lessons for exemplary living. And she's a younger woman, Sky Bergman, and she really wanted to share the beauty that she understood was how adults age.
Inspired by her grandmother.
Grandma's legacy.
So one more myth, and this one also is in the news a lot, about supposed cognitive decline. And the myth is that after menopause, we just say women's best brain years are behind them. That's a myth.
Yes.
Women's brains remain adaptable throughout life. We support their learning, support memory, cognitive growth. And we have many advocates that talk about this as well. Colleen T. Murphy is one. She studies longevity, and she says she goes beyond the usual factors of nutrition and diet, and talks about ways to maintain cognitive health as we age. So those are our myths and truths.
And then you are busting those myths.
Yes, we are. The women we interview are busting those myths. Yes.
And then your facilitations and this beautiful platform that you created is just so inspiring.
Thank you, Sun-Hee.
So what are, after you have interviewed over 370 women, over 70-year-olds, what are the common characteristics do these women have?
That's a question we kept being asked, and we were hesitant. We said, "Oh, no, every story is unique." And then we thought, "Wait a minute, there've got to be common qualities here." Right. So we re-listened to several hundred podcasts to look for the qualities, and themes, of course, did show up. So we presented them in the book through the acronym of FLAMES. We'll talk about that in a minute. And highlighting what we call the 6 C's, the qualities that almost all of our women exhibit. And it's what keeps them vibrant and vital and engaged in life. One of them, the first one is, Gail, you're going to talk about, I think, is the F, forming community.
We used flames as an icon to have an organizing principle around all these characteristics. Yeah. So flames, where we are in the first letter of flames is F, and we talk about forming community. And the women we interview love connection. The current literature examines how connection and social interaction are key to living a long, fulfilling life. And Susan Oppenheimer, another wonderful woman we interviewed, who was 80 when we interviewed her, was recently asked to join a super age study led by the University of Chicago. And similar studies have been done at the University of Wisconsin, Madison, and also Northwestern University. And what they find is that neuroscience makes it very clear. The brain requires regular social interaction, just as the body requires movement. And remember that social engagement activities activate the neural pathways. So the next time you want to not answer the phone or you're postponing an invitation you received, you're hesitant to accept, remember that as women we thrive, we live longer, and we experience greater happiness when we allow ourselves to connect.
So the L of Flames is learning with curiosity. Now, this is really about lifelong learning, and most of the women, some of them say, "I'm insatiably curious," or "I just can't stop learning." And they're as involved in the process as they are in any particular outcome. And in the book, we've organized aspects of curiosity around their curiosity about the natural world and how we live in it and preserve it, about other cultures through travel, and spiritual growth, which seems to be increasingly important as we age. Curiosity about our bodies. How are we, not the decline, but the possibilities? What can we still do with our bodies? And so I'm not going to talk about specific women, but those are the areas that we address regarding curiosity.
Yeah, lifelong learning.
Lifelong learning.
Exactly.
So F and L, now we have an A.
I think we've come to realize that, as we've said before, we're more than a podcast movement. I need to think of this as a form of creative resistance. And acting with courage is that. It's showing up. It's speaking out, as you talked about. It's acknowledging the personal challenges that we have and figuring out ways to cope, overcome those. It's about mental health issues, whether our own or people in our sphere, gender identity, including transgender, and justice. A lot of women are very active in the arts, using the arts as a way of expressing the need for justice, the civil rights movements, including women's rights. Yeah. Some of them are courageous in that one became a rabbi after she'd been in a very different kind of career. And another is the oldest first female filmmaker. So she's gotten a lot of attention, a documentary about finding her a granddaughter who'd been adopted and the lack of rights that grandparents have. Those are other examples.
We hear fabulous stories.
I got a goosebumps. The lived experience and then being shared.
Definitely.
Wow.
and inspiring.
Yes. It is just phenomenal. And I listened to the latest episode on my way yesterday.
Oh, good.
And such a wealth of informations, but also the wisdom just sipping through. And then I feel also seen. I am just amazed that you created this beautiful platform. So what platforms do you use to build and sustain the community that you have built over years?
Would you like to hear about the other parts of the flame first?
That's right. I will FLAME.
We have 3 left. 2 left.
2 left.
Yeah. So the E is expressing creativity. And you know that's a subject near and dear to my heart, creativity. And the beautiful thing is that we've discovered that creativity unfolds and deepens across a lifetime. It reflects a wide spectrum of imaginative expression. It's not just about the arts. It has to do with the way we think, how we live, the work that we do, and how we build community. And it doesn't narrow with age, we're discovering. It unfolds and it expands, and that's really the exciting part about it. One woman that we interviewed, that was Gerda Meyer Bernstein. She was 97 when we interviewed her, and she was episode 32, so that was 6.5 years ago. And she was a child who emigrated to the United States on the first kinder transport that left Russia at the start of World War II. And the memory of her family and the horrors that she experienced helped her become an artist. And what she did was she created these large installations that showed the horrors of war, violence, visual narratives that were really expressive of what life was like during war. And what she hoped was that the people who viewed these installations, which were shown in major public spaces, that they would think about what they were seeing. And while she was an internationally known artist, that didn't make her happy. What made her happy was that people thought about all the things that had happened. And then our final C, or flame, is showing compassion. Compassion, of course, is love without justice, and the importance of bridging between love and justice. And so we know that when we're younger, we're involved with taking care of family and children and perhaps parents and all of that. But as we get older, we find that we're able to speak more truth about what it means to be compassionate. And we are learning also to be self-compassionate, which is something that we must be really in order to take care of others and the world and the planet and everything that these fabulous women are doing.
Self-compassionate. This is a really deep topic.
Yes.
I'm so glad that we are learning about the book, and this book will be published sometime soon.
In the summer, late summer, we believe.
I can't wait.
Thank you.
This is such a powerful way to tell our stories. And the community that you have built, interviewing these wonderful individuals, and how do you sustain this community? How do you find these women and wonderful interviewees?
Well, it's not hard to find the women anymore. We started with our own networks, and then, of course, women would refer us to other women. So it just keeps snowballing that way. We've also been discovered by literary agents and public relations folks, and that's another source. But we want to make sure that we're sharing stories that resonate, and that's not just a platform for someone to sell books. So we're careful about that. So we have our podcast for sure. It's the foundation. We have our Aging Reimagined Circle, which is a membership group. We meet online with monthly programs. You were one of our facilitators recently.
Yeah, I was honored.
And it's a wonderful way to have intimate conversation among a relatively small group, usually 20 or so. We have a Facebook group that's quite active. We have Instagram, and all the cover art for all of our episodes are posted there, so people can access that. We do a fair amount of speaking, providing programs, workshops, being on other people's podcasts, so we're spreading the word.
Thank you.
And then, of course, the book that's coming out. So forming community is challenging because we're all over the country. I mean, our women are all over the country.
And other countries, too.
Yeah, listeners, 120 other countries.
Right.
So we occasionally we've had 2 in-person symposia. Of course, we want to do the workshops and presentations. We'll do that in person. We'll do that virtually. And I think it's a sense of belonging in a way that we don't always think about it, that we don't have to be faced to feel like we belong to this community. That's what we're trying to promote.
And I feel very strong connecting this thread from all different platforms and channels. It's wonderful that your leadership, but also stewardship. So what does a stewardship of this movement that you created? Women have a voice to tell, and you're creating this beautiful community. So what does this mean to you personally?
I'll go first.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it is an important, wonderful opportunity that we have had here to create a space where older women's stories and voices and wisdom are honored. We want them to be seen not as in decline, which they aren't, but as continued growth, creativity, and contribution. And it means helping shine a light on women whose stories have so much to offer our listeners. It feels like both an honor and a responsibility. But through our podcast, the community, and now the book, we are able to share this truth with, as Catherine said, with listeners in 120 countries and all over. And we're building a more truthful and expansive vision of what it really means to age. And that's what we started out to do. So it's really exciting that we can do this work. It's really an honor.
And I would say ditto to what Gail just said. Also, in my years in higher education, I was a mentor to adult learners, and I heard thousands of stories over the last 50 years or so. It's often one-on-one or in small groups, so this is a wonderful way to share. I get to continue to listen to stories. I get to hear them and to share them much more widely. And also for me, it is every encounter, I learn something. I learn something about a new topic, or I learn something about a different cause or a way of being involved in that cause, or how this person navigates her challenges and her opportunities. And so, as Gail said, it's exciting, it's invigorating, it's energizing. I just can't imagine wanting to do anything else.
Right, me neither. We just love it.
This is so awesome. I mean, I am getting a lot of energy through this conversation, and I can see how it is really making impact on other women who still may not know how to navigate, but you're really showing the pathways.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for these sessions. We are celebrating this month, Women's History. Would you like to share one of the last things that you want to honor, or you want to just have a closing remark to wrap up our first episode?
Well, I would say that many of our women have made history. I mean, they're well known.
That's right.
They've been involved in civil rights. They helped make Juneteenth a national holiday, did the abortion underground before Roe versus Wade. They make history. They continue to make history. And it doesn't have to be big H history. They're making a difference every step of the way. So we honor them.
We're so inspired. And every time we finish an interview with someone, we look at each other and we say, wow. We really want to tell the stories of extraordinary, ordinary women.
Wow, extraordinary, ordinary.
That's right. And while we have Judy Collins and Karen Grassley and women who have been justices and famous attorneys and professors, and, we have so many women who are just every day out there making contributions, doing what they can to better our society, our lives, and other women.
I feel empowered just having this talk with you both.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
And this is our very first inaugural episode of Sage Pathways. Thank you for listening.